Started looking at the turbo that felt like it had a little too much play. Had watched a couple of other YouTubers breaking apart different turbos, maybe not this one specifically. But as some of them had done, I had to grind down the ring end. Tried with the open end, but it was just wasn't grip enough. Tried marking how it was mounted together. Had used a pen at first, but tried to like scribble a line. Had seen some little discoloring on one of the blades here. I wanted to get a closer inspection to see if it looked like it was a crack or just some coating on it or whatever it was before going further. So took off the housing on the intake side, used some toothbrush and some penetrating oil and sprayed it and brushed it, and couldn't see it. Kind of went away what I was worried was some damage, so it looks okay. Did a test fit to see what tools would be required. Rigged it up and did a few taps, even if I didn't have much hope that it would be an easy break apart, because I've seen others struggle. But there is a clever solution later in the video. So the intake side was put back on to protect the impeller and have something to hold on to later on. And then I started spraying penetrating oil inside, as they suggest you should do for days, weeks, months, maybe years even. And I kept spraying for the next few days. Then a few days later some heat was added and did a few taps, did absolutely nothing. So kept spraying, kept tapping every other day, brought in some better heat with a proper torch. Didn't want to go too crazy with the heat. I don't want to melt it, but it did start turning a little red in areas. Some more tapping, no real movement to start to talk about. Did spend a little time here and there trying a few taps, moving, tapping, spraying. Did start hearing some scratching when turning it, and I've seen others have. It's a sign that it has actually moved, because the blades are closer on one side. Here I'm trying to kind of what I think is the side that should go out a little further. So it has actually started moving, but it's not coming off easy. Here I'm trying to tap back the side I think has moved a tiny fraction to see if that would help. Some more heat, some more tapping, trying to get it back still to free up the blade that's actually grinding it ever so slightly, and then trying to force the other side to move, and I did get it to stop hearing that scratching sound, but not easily. Then my dad came up with this clever solution. We made sure to press just a couple of square tubing and fulcrum for the pincer, and some clamps at the ends to put some pressure on it, a little bit of force, pushing down or pushing it apart. And with that rigged up, we started tapping a little, and could see some movement maybe, but it wasn't that much, so we tightened the clamps a little harder. After tightening the clamps, we gave it a few more knocks, and it had moved far enough that the bolts holding it together, they were moved out a couple of turns that they were binding, so we removed the clamping, or like pincer pushing it apart. I thought it would still require a few taps, but it was just to lift it out by then, so it is apart. My markings had gone away, so we put it together with the marks from the clamps holding it together, and used a Dremel to make some proper marks. Also marked the intake side a lot better. That was a little off from my reassembly, but I could still see the old marks that came apart easily. So here is the center housing, the bearing housing of the turbo, but here I'm missing a lot of parts because I ran out of power in the camera and hadn't noticed, but there are plenty of other videos out there showing how to break this apart, and it's quite simple. Some lock rings holding some bushings in place, and a truss bearing, so it's nothing fancy. I spent some time taking pictures and making a few notes exactly how to put the impellers back in place and get that properly lined up to not lose balance. It was mainly the solution about putting some pressure, pushing things apart. We made sure we pushed only on the housing of it and the outer part of the exhaust side, and not stress the aluminum intake side.